Hey guys, often get comments on different videos from people talking about experiences that they might have had in Japan, and sometimes we'll make a video where we talk about, lack of English in Japan, or talk about how important it is to be able to speak Japanese if you come to Japan, or something like that, about other foreigners in Japan, or some topic like that, and quite often we'll get comment from somebody that they disagree. And then when we ask, where were you or what did you do in Japan, they'll say that they were in Tokyo for a week, or they were in Tokyo for 6 months, or they were in Tokyo for a year. And it's interesting that Tokyo is a really interesting place, and so is Osaka, and so is Nagoya. But Tokyo is a little bit unique, and most Japanese people, if you ask them, will say that Tokyo's... I've actually had one friend that says Tokyo's not really Japan, which is a bit extreme. It obviously is Japan, but it is very different. It is very different. You'll have a lot of experiences in Tokyo that you won't have elsewhere. And there'll also be some experiences that you can have elsewhere around Japan that you might not have in Tokyo. So the reason is that Tokyo is one of the world's cosmopolitan cities. So, if they list them, they usually say New York, London, Tokyo. So it's different. They're used to having lots of foreigners there, and it's a really cosmopolitan city, most of it. So you'll have experiences in Tokyo that you won't normally have outside Tokyo, and there'll also be stuff that won't happen there that will happen elsewhere. So the reason I'm making this video is just so that people can be aware, if they do spend a week in Tokyo and that's their experience of Japan, not to assume that the rest of it's the same. Also, some people come to Japan and spend a year in Tokyo working for an English school, and they'll stay in the school's accommodation, and they'll get up in the morning and they'll go to work at the English school, and the rule at the English school is no Japanese, only speak English, and then they finish work in the afternoon and they go off to the bars with their co-workers, and go to the hub, or go to some other English bar or some other foreigner bar, and that's their experience. And maybe on the weekend they'll go off into the countryside somewhere and see something. But it's possible to live that lifestyle for a year and miss out on lots of stuff. In some ways it's an exciting lifestyle. People talk all the time about Akibahara and Roppongi, and we get asked about that all the time. Can you make a video about Akibahara, and make a video about Roppongi, and make a video about all those places, Shibahara? And we don't, because 99% of the people who come to Japan, foreigners who come to Japan, go those places. So there's nothing new there, and it's a different experience. It depends on what you're coming here for. I think if you like night clubbing, and you like you like the big city, and you like night clubbing, and you like hanging out with other foreigners in Japan, and partying and drinking and stuff like that, that's the place to be. Go to Roppongi, go and spend your time in Tokyo and do all that sort of stuff, and it's a great experience, and lots of people come and spend a year there and love it. There's people that come and spend 5 years there and love it, and it's it's an exciting and very interesting thing to do, for sure. But I think it's important to be aware that that's not all Japan is, and that most of Japan isn't like that. It's just that area. It's that city, and to a certain extent, Osaka's a little bit the same. Nagoya's a bit the same, but Tokyo really is different from all of it. It really is, and most Japanese people will tell you that. It just really is a different place. So the point of this video is, first of all, just to tip people off, if you've had a week in Japan and it was all in Tokyo, or most of it was in Tokyo, don't let that make you think that that's all that Japan is, because it's not. Get out in the countryside away from Tokyo, and it's really, really different. So if you've only had a short burst in Tokyo, be aware that there's lots of stuff here that's different to that. And also, if you're coming here, if you haven't been here yet and you're coming here, you might want to think about getting out of Tokyo. If you want to do that nightlife thing, with the nightclubs and that sort of thing, and Tokyo's the place. But if you want to see more of Japan, it's well worth getting out of it and getting away from it, and as far as possible, really, because it's the same. It's the same. Hokkaido is the same. You can go to Hokkaido and spend time in Niseko, which is a wonderful place in Hokkaido, but it's the same. It's sort of like, it's probably the wrong thing to call them, but they have been called gaijin ghettos, these places. So Akabahara and Roppongi and, you know, Niseko in Hokkaido, and, you know, certain parts of Osaka and certain parts of Kyoto. And if you've been to any of these places, you'll know what I'm talking about. Everywhere you look, there's foreigners, you know, and some people call that gaijin ghetto because, you know, here in amongst all the Japanese stuff, you've got big groups of foreigners all intermingling with each other. And again, you know, a lot of people love that. And, you know, we're here out in the country here where, you know, foreigners are a really rare thing around this part of the world, and a lot of people just wouldn't like it here. You know, they'd get very frustrated here and bored probably. So it depends on what you're interested in. You know, a lot of people find that spending lots of time with other foreigners in a foreign place to be a really exciting thing to do, and I can understand that. You know, totally understandable that, you know, a few foreigners together drinking in a bar in the middle of Japan, sort of exciting, you know. So if that's what you want to do, then that's definitely, Tokyo is definitely the place for that. And, you know, and again, you can go to Niseko and Hokkaido, or you can go to some parts of Kyoto is the same. There's some, you know, anywhere there's foreigner bars, and they're sort of safe. They make people feel better if they're spending all their time isolated and they go to a foreigner bar and hang out with lots of foreigners. It can make people feel safer or better or more comfortable or something. So there is that. It can be very therapeutic. Get together with a bunch of foreigners and talk about how weird Japan is, you know. It can be very therapeutic. But I'm just making this video just to kick around the fact that there's more to it than that. And it's a choice thing. You have a choice. You can go that route, or the best advice I was ever given years ago when I came here for the first time was one of my teachers, one of my martial arts teachers who lived here, told me I should go to a little Buddhist temple on the top of a mountain outside Kyoto. And I was like, I couldn't speak any Japanese, and the whole idea was scary as anything, you know, and the idea of doing that was really scary. But he told me to do it, so I did it. And I did it. And it was really good. It was really, really good because it forced me to go right away from everybody that could speak English and find myself in a really isolated spot with people who rarely saw foreigners, and you know, walking through the mountains to find this Buddhist temple in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, it took trains and buses and all sorts of stuff to get there, and it was a real adventure. And that would be my advice, would be, if you come to Japan, spend at least some time doing that. You know, just pick somewhere you want to go. There's lots of places here that you might want to go to. You know, lots of wonderful places here that you might want to go to. Just pick one and go there on your own. You know, because it's really different. If you do stuff on your own here, it's really different from doing it with other people. Doing it with other people's good too, but I'm just saying, just if you get some chance, just go off and do some stuff, because it's a really different experience. If there's two foreigners sitting on a train together, you'll sit there and you'll talk to each other in English probably, or German, or whatever your native language is. But if you're on your own, you'll hear more and see more and listen more, and more likely to talk to other people, and you'll get into it more. You'll get really in amongst it more than you will if you're sitting there talking to another person in your own language. It's just natural. It's just what happens. So both experiences are good. I'm not saying that one experience is better than the other. I'm just pointing out that what we often see on YouTube and on the internet of people's experiences in Japan, and, you know, in blogs and different things on the internet, people's experiences in Japan, this is quite often what we see is that Tokyo thing. That's really common, and that's great. But the idea of this video is just to kick around the other options and to make this suggestion to go outside your comfort zone and go and do some other stuff. Even if you are in Tokyo, hop on a train or a bus and go somewhere on your own, you know, as far away as possible, even if it's just for the day. You know, even if it's just for the day, it's well worth doing. Allow lots of time. If you get yourself lost, it won't matter. You know, you're going to be safe pretty well anywhere you go in Japan. You're going to be safe outside Tokyo. There is an element of risk in Tokyo, in Roppongi and around those areas. There is an element of risk at night. You have to be a little bit careful, mainly because of the people taking advantage of the tourists there. There's lots of African touters and people like that are trying to get money off people, so you've got to be really careful around that part. But once you get outside Tokyo, you know, you'll be pretty safe. You can pretty well go anywhere. So it's worth doing. It really is worth doing. Get yourself out and go somewhere isolated. And again, if you're coming here for a longer time, if you're coming here for a year or something, and you're given choice of, you know, teaching at a school in Tokyo or teaching at a school somewhere smaller, you might want to give some thought to picking somewhere smaller. You know, or if you've got 3 months, you're coming here for 3 months on the tourist waiver, and you've got 3 months to spend here, you might want to just give some thought to finding yourself somewhere really isolated. You know, I mean, a lot of the interesting places like Kyoto and Himeji-jo and, you know, other places like that, they're natural attractions for foreigners. So that when you go to places like that, there's bound to be foreigners. But that's okay. That's good. You can go see those places too. But just see if you can spend some time further away. Is good if you can, you know, to really experience the real Japan, or the more unique part of Japan. Because a lot of stuff in Tokyo is the same as it is other countries, really. You know, the only place I've ever had bad service in a restaurant was in Tokyo. And a lot of stuff there's like that, abusive taxi drivers, aggressive taxi drivers, and there's a lot of stuff like that in Tokyo that you don't experience in other parts of Japan, but you do experience in other capital cities of the world. So that's what I mean by cosmopolitan. It really is. It really is. There's similarities to New York and London and other big cities of the world, you know. So anyway, I hope that was just supposed to be food for thought for people that are going to be coming here, or people that have already been here. You know, if you hear us talking about the lack of English in Japan, or if you hear us talking about, you know, different stuff like that, occasionally we get these comments from people saying, you know, that's not true. I spent a week in Japan. I had no problems at all with the Japanese, you know, with the English, you know, and we say, where were you? And I was in Roppongi. Right. Because, you know, most of Tokyo is geared for foreigners. So, yeah, of course you didn't have any problems there. And a lot of stuff's like that, you know, the discrimination, ryokan and things like that. It's less likely to happen in Tokyo than it will out in the countryside. So, you know, people looking, nobody looked at me when I was in Japan. Where were you? I was in Tokyo. You know, that's because foreigners aren't unusual in Tokyo. So a lot of our videos, if you hear something like that, it's quite often that's what's going on. We're talking about in the 99% of Japan that's not Tokyo, and the 1% that is Tokyo is a little bit different. So experience both. That's the best. If you want to go night clubbing in Roppongi, go and do that. And then get on a little train that goes out to the middle of nowhere and go to the end of the line, and then get out and walk around. Spend a couple of days there in a ryokan, you know. That's the way to go. Best of both worlds then. Anyway, I hope that was of some use to somebody. More videos coming soon.